So good morning to everyone. It's a real pleasure to have all of you present at this webinar to present our Antiepileptic Programme. My name is Sandrine Saye. I am the mission coordinator and the project manager of the research support program named Antiepileptic Programme on the effects in utero exposure to anti-seizure medications. So during the webinar, your audios and videos are turned off, but you can ask questions in the chat room by clicking on the chat tab. If you want to turn on the live captions, you have to go to languages and speech. And finally, if you want to use live transcriptions, the text appear alongside the meeting in real time. For that, you need to go to the record and transcribe and start the transcriptions. Today, the webinar will last 1 hour 30. In terms of agenda, the first part of the webinar will talk about the context and the challenges of the Antiepileptic Programme, with first Rémi Slama, IReSP director, that will do a presentation of the French Institute for Public Health Research, IReSP. And he will give some background elements of the research support program. His presentation will be followed by Chantal Guillaume, head of the medicine office, that will present the French Ministry of Health and Prevention, who financially support the program. And in the second part, I will present the Antiepileptic Programme and the support details of both goals. Finally, during the last part of the webinar, we will address your questions. Now I'm pleased to introduce and present and give to Rémi, IReSP director, to provide you an introduction. Rémi, you can begin.
Thank you very much, Sandrine, and good morning, everyone. We are delighted that you joined us for this presentation of this research call, which is essential to bring new knowledge on the effect of early life exposure to anti-seizure medication, which is supported by our Ministry of Health and launched by IReSP, the Institute for Research in Public Health, hosted by INSERM and supported by many institutions. Please, the next slide. So IReSP depends both on the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Research. Just like INSERM, it's hosting institution. It's IReSP is about 15 years old and has 12 members, including several research institutions like CNRS, IRD, INED, INSERM, of course, health insurance plans, Santé, Publique France, the French CDC, the national institution in charge of cancer, and another institution. And our main aim is to develop and promote research for public health by trying and acting across a line that is depicted here in the bottom. That is, we try to first, of course, identify the research needs and challenges, hold calls for proposals on various public health related topics, follow up these projects, and then help researchers disseminate the knowledge generated by these projects and make sure that they reach public health decision makers and society as a whole. On the next slide, we just like to say a word on what brings us today here. It is the study of the short and long-term effects of in utero exposure to anti-seizure medications. Of course, the most well-known of these anti-seizure medication is sodium valproate, or Dépakine as a commercial name in France. Dépakine has well-known identified effects in the offspring of the women who were prescribed the drug during pregnancy. But there's still a lot to learn on possible effects on the following generations of sodium valproate, namely people, the offspring of women who used this drug during pregnancy may wonder if they are themselves at risk of delivering children with specific disorders. There's also a lot to learn on other anti-seizure medications than sodium valproate on the first, second, and maybe later generations. So we have research needs at all levels, which relate to effects, mechanisms, also to care pathways, so that one can understand why women who are at need of anti-seizure medications are being prescribed specific drugs during pregnancy, what alternatives exist in terms of care pathways. Following a request from the Directorate of Health, one of the main division of our Ministry of Health, INSERM had developed an expertise on anti-seizure medications. This expertise led by Professor Pierre Vancel from INSERM and APHP had concluded that 4 research priorities need to be considered to bring new knowledge, and these included the heterogeneity and other types of effects of anti-seizure medications on children and their offspring and the future generations exposed in utero, the transgenerational effects of anti-seizure medications, transgenerational being understood in broad terms. There is also a need to identify the mechanisms of the toxicity of these anti-seizure medications and to study the care pathways and inequalities in access to care. Following this report, the Ministry of Health considered that it would be relevant to support research on these topics and has asked IReSP and INSERM to launch a call on this topic, providing a support of about 5 million euros in total for a duration of 5 years. Of course, we are striving so that most of that money is being given to research projects on these various topics. I will now give the floor to my colleague from the Ministry of Health on the next slide.
Chantal
to follow up.
Guillaume.
Please, Chantal, from the head of medicine's office at DGS, the French Directorate for Health.
Thank you, Rémi, for your presentation. Chantal?
Okay, I think I have access to the microphone. Sorry.
Yeah.
For the delay. Good
It's
morning,
fine.
everybody, and thank you very much, Rémi. Thank you, Sandrine, for the organization of this event. I'm very pleased to be here for the launch of this important anti-epileptic research program for the Ministry of Health. So I will be brief. I just wanted to give you a little of context on this research program, how it's important, the context, and how it's important for the Ministry of Health and why. So I am here as a representative of the DGS. DGS means Direction Générale de la Santé, and I will perhaps just give you a brief introduction on the mission of DGS. who is responsible to prepare public health policy and contribute to its implementation. And for that, the DGS is responsible to develop, guide, and anchor health policy by defining and implementing strategies to improve health behavior and living environments. We set legislative and regulatory framework and develop, implement public health plan and national health program. We are also responsible for activities related to the protection of population, and it's really the topic of today is related to this particular mission, because we are responsible to ensure the capacity of the health system to detect, analyze, and manage alerts and exceptional health situations. The other two missions are around the guaranteeing ethics, transparency, and access to quality of care for all. And for that, we coordinate, lead, drive some national agency, but also regional agency and different partner association and healthcare professional. So the next slide, please. Topic of today, the risk associated to anti-epileptic drug during pregnancy. We have been alerted many years ago by the French regulatory agency on this risk of malformation and neurodevelopment disorder associated with anti-epileptic drug during pregnancy. But the diagnostic of the agency INSM in France was also that we need further research on this area. And that's why we commissioned INSERM to propose a research program on the effect of in utero exposure to sodium valproate, but also other anti-epileptic drugs. And at that time, when we asked INSERM, we wanted INSERM to help us to identify what are really the scientific issues and how we can prioritize this issue, and what would be the best way to address them. So that's really the origin of this program. And if we can move to the next slide. Just to also mention that we had already some data because there are ongoing monitoring data following the alert from NSM. Ongoing studies have been performed and are still ongoing based on the National Health Data System. And with this, the analysis of this national database, we have been able already to estimate some risk of neurodevelopmental disorder among child exposed with valproic acid and other anti-epileptic. We have been also able to have more characterization around this risk and how it is connected to the dose and the period of exposure during a pregnancy. But there are still additional also analyses to refine this the answer to this question about the risk and how it's connected to the dose and the period of exposure. So it's a work that is ongoing. We have already, it's with the support of INSM, and they have already published 2 reports and actually 2 articles, and we expect a new report in spring. So the program of today, and I will last my presentation with this last slide just to mention, and I won't come back on the 4 areas of research because Remy has already presented them, but it will be further developed, I'm sure, later today. But the idea is really that this research is important for DGS because we have this mission to protect the population, to protect the population, and for this to guide some activities, decision on public health that we can have on this topic of anti-epileptic. This research will really be informative. So with that, I would like to thank in advance those who will apply to this research program, and I'm sure you will have we will have the chance to have very good quality project that will be submitted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chantal, for this nice presentation. So now I will take the lead and we will talk about the Antiepileptic Programme. So as Chantal and Remy mentioned, in order to address the scientific question to further explore the short and long-term effects in utero exposure to anti-seizure medications, IReSP launched 2 related calls. One call for research project with 4 thematics will be a classical call, but a one-step call. The research areas are teratogenic and developmental effects of anti-seizure medication in children exposed in utero. This will be an area specific to human projects. Generational effects of anti-seizure medication. It will be more an area addressed to animal and human studies. The toxicity mechanisms of anti-seizure medication in the context of in utero exposure, also linked with animal and human. And last area, the care pathway and inequalities in care access for women treated with anti-seizure medication and children exposed in utero. This is for the first call, and then we'll launch a second call, that is the call for expression of interest. This time is a 2-step call in which the area is the intergenerational effect of anti-seizure medication in humans. You can have all the information in the IReSP website regarding both calls. So now I wanted to talk about the call for research project first. Who is a call? A classical one, a one-step call where found selected advanced projects and pilot projects on the following areas. So the objective of the first area is to improve quantifications and characterization of the risk of birth defects and neurodevelopmental disorder associated with various anti-seizure medication. And this essentially using commonly used anti-seizure medication. Methodological approaches are epidemiological studies that use existing medical and administrative database and existing cohorts. Studies on large populations based on existing data sources are crucial. So data sources may include existing large database with routinely collected such as SNDS, hospital data warehouse, registers like congenital abnormalities or children disabilities, and other potential existing data sources. New or existing cohort studies of women recruited in periconceptional periods with good quality information on medical consumptions. So this is mainly what we are looking for when people will apply for Area 1. I want just you to keep in mind that in this area, we will give priority to projects relying on alternative approaches and sources than the sole SNDS. As you can see that there is ongoing projects, and we already gathered some informations. So the objective of the research area 2 is to evaluate the generational risk of birth defects and neurodevelopmental disorder or pathologies following in utero exposure to anti-seizure medications in animals and humans. Methodological approaches needed for animal studies will involve exposition during critical periods of gestation at doses comparable to those used in humans, to access the intergenerational and the transgenerational impact of anti-seizure medications, exposure to F0, F1, F2, F3 generations are essential in this part, in this specific area. Physiological pathologies should be assessed in young and older animals, in addition to systemic congenital disease assessments. Neurological testings could be accessed for anxiety, memory, and other neurodegeneratives and behavioral disorders. In addition, or as an alternative to animal studies, epidemiological studies of children and grandchildren from women exposed to anti-seizure medication during pregnancy may be considered too. Non-exposed and exposed populations will need to access pathologies and neurodevelopmental abnormalities in children and grandchildren as young adults or older adults. So epidemiological studies may be based on results of animal studies concerning the pathologies and the periods of development to be taken in account. So in this area, you can address the question by using animal studies or epidemiological studies. The objective of the research area 3 is to establish cellular and molecular, including epigenetic mechanisms, by which the most commonly used anti-seizure medication in pregnancy are likely to disrupt organogenesis and developmental or induce specific disease. Methodological approaches expected are comparative studies with simultaneous comparison of different common anti-seizure medications using identified and standardized protocols, purified cell populations in cultures, to screen specific mechanisms and downstream transcriptional events, and classical toxicology screening for the different anti-seizure medications. Human studies can use peripheral cell populations of placenta, embryonic, can be used to study the impact on the gene expression. Impacts on epigenetic programming will be important to assess the long-term developmental impact on the individuals later in life. So this is regarding the area 3. I have just to mention to you that in this area, these are examples, but other methodological approaches are that can address the question can be suggested. Now, the last area, the area 4. So the objective of the research area 4 is to analyze the existing care pathway and inequalities in care access of women pregnant or reaching childbearing age and children exposed to anti-seizure medications in utero. The priorities need to be analyzed, the care organizations, the disparity in access to care, whether they are social or geographic, the crucial period of the transition between the adolescence and the adulthood in women with epilepsy, and as well as representation, knowledge, and practices of practitioners, but also patients. They could also treat ethical issues related to considerations of risk associated with pregnancy in women. Methodological approach could be a combination of data collected specifically for research, like cohort, randomized trials, matched with SNS, practice studies, longitudinal approaches, and quantitative studies with patients and healthcare professionals. In addition, we are also open to interventional research that will also address and improve the care pathway and reducing the inequalities in care. So this is for the call for research project, who is a one-step call. So you apply with your project if you choose to apply for an advanced project or a pilot project, and then your project will be evaluated for funding. For the call for expression of interest in comparison to the call for research project, it is a two-step process. So a bit different, very different from the first call. So is it a two-step process? That first will allow to identify selected complementary research teams in which this is what I call the first step, and then supported selected teams will work together to construct a project that may be founded after evaluation. The research area seeks application for investigator able to develop an epidemiological study in population that will allow assessment of intergenerational risk of anti-seizure medication being based on existing data or data not yet or only partially gathered, such as record of medication use in pregnancy, maternal indications for the use of anti-seizure medication, maternal comorbidity, and so on. The study design should also allow to cover a long time period, allowing to study intergenerational effects. So this is for the areas, the methodological approach that we are expecting you to address in both goals. So now I will go for the both call details. So keep in mind that all the informations are in IReSP website under the program Antiepileptic, and when you will log in this program, you will have access or to the call for expression of interest or to all informations of the call for expression of interest. Regarding the call for research project, if you want to apply for the call, the deadline for electronic submission is May 24th, 3 p.m. Paris time. So keep in mind that you can apply through EVA3 platform. You have all the infos on our site and also on the text calls. So scientific evaluations will last for 5 months, followed by the result publication on December 2023. There is 2 support modalities in this specific call. You have the complete research project. The duration will be up to 3 years, with a budget between 40,000 to 800,000 euros. Or you can apply for the pilot research project that will be a duration of 1 to 2 years maximum, with the budget up to 100,000 euros. So this is for the details on the call for research projects. if you want to apply for the call for expression of interest, the deadline for electronic submission is May 10th, 2023. Same thing, 3 p.m. Paris time. And applications are through EVA3 platform. In this call, scientific evaluations will last for 2 months, followed by the announcement of the selected team in August. And then from September to February, 6 months, selected teams will co-construct a project supported by IReSP with seminars and meetings. And in February, they have to submit the co-constructed project that will be examined by our committee. And in April 2024, you will have the result publications. So keep in mind that both goals are related, but they are 2 different processes with different modalities. Now that I covered both calls, let's go for the session of questions. So in this part of the talk, I will first address some questions that I prepared, and then I will address specific questions that we can have through the chat. So first question, I will say a classical question. Where can I find the full information on both calls? So full information on the Antiepileptic Programme is available on the IReSP website. So when you arrive to our website, you arrive to the Antiepileptic Programme, and this page gives access to the call for research project and the call for expression of interest. Each page will contain different types of informations. For the call for research project, you will have access to the text calls, the French and English version, the application form, and the budgetary appendix. For the call for expression of interest, you will have the access to the text calls, French and English version, and the application form without budgetary appendix, because at this stage is not necessary. This is for one first question that are usually asked. The second question that I wanted to address is, can I apply for both calls? As I mentioned previously, the Antiepileptic Programme is composed of 2 different but related calls. So it is possible to apply for the call for research project and the call for expression of interest. However, projects must be listed and address different research areas in line with the research dimension of the call and with the appropriate research ambitions. Keep in mind that the call for research project is a one-step process that will provide financial support for selected research projects, whereas the call for expression of interest is a 2-step process that will allow first to identify the selected teams with complementary expertise. That will be the step 1, and then selected teams will, with the support of IReSP, will co-construct a research project that will be then evaluated for funding. I want to attract your attention about the application conditions. To be eligible for the call for research project, there is recommendations. Affiliated organizations of the scientific coordinator and team leader must be eligible, must belong to eligible organizations. Regarding the scientific coordinator, he must be French resident and belong to a French organization. Partner teams must belong to eligible affiliated organizations. You will have all these informations in the calls. And non-French teams can apply for funding. However, non-French teams will be funded at a maximum of 35% of the total amount of the funding requested. So scientific coordinators had to be a French team in French organizations, and non-French teams cannot be scientific coordinator. They had to be partner teams. This is for the call for research project. The eligibility criteria for the call for expression of interest is the affiliated organization of the candidate that must be eligible organizations, and non-French teams can apply without this particular condition about the scientific coordinator in the call for expression of interest. How can I apply? So applications must be submitted online in an electronic format through the EVA3 website. For that, you have to create your account with your email address that will be used as an identification for your account. After creating your account, you'll be able to log in and submit your application. Please note that applications must be submitted only under the coordinator name and contact details. Applications for the call for research project are possible until May 24th, 3 p.m. Paris time. On the website, you have to fill the form and then download 2 documents for the call for research project, the application form and the budgetary appendix. And for the call of expression of interest, deadline is until the May 10th, Paris time zone. You have to fill the form and download the application form. And now the last question that I prepare always: can foreign researchers participate to the calls? So for the call for research project, foreign teams, non-French teams can apply for funding only if they are coordinated and associated with a French team as partner teams. So in this call, foreign teams cannot be the team one. However, they will be funded at a maximum of 35%, the total amount of the funding requested. I want you to keep in mind that projects involving foreign teams will be looked at very carefully by the committee of evaluation of the scientific evaluation committee, and also the French Ministry regarding the added value provided by these non-French teams. And for the call for expression of interest, foreign teams can apply by themselves. So now I am done for the prepared questions, and I will invite Marion Cipriano, Deputy Scientific Director, to address some of your questions.
So good morning, everyone. So I will now take over to answer the first question regarding the scope. And my colleagues, Arnaud de Guerra and Mélanie Simoni will help me to answer question, and Sandrine too. So one question was about if the call for expression of interest is only focused on human subjects. So as Sandrine said, exactly, the proposal in the call for expression of interest have to address the issue of generational effects of anti-seizure medication, but with human studies. It's because there is a lot of methodological issues to address this subject in human studies. Is the reason we build this call for expression of interest and not only a call for a research project to help you in the co-construction of the project. Another question was about the 4 axes of the call. So must the proposal address a specific area, or can it span multiple areas? So to be eligible, the project have to address at least one of the 4 axes identified in the call for research project, but it's totally possible to address several axes. And I will add something about the example provided by Sandrine, and in the text, they are not exhaustive, so you can address other issue into the axes. Other question about the scope. Sorry. So maybe Arnaud, if you want to answer the question about the non-profit organization in the call for expression of interest.
Okay, Marion, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Arnaud de Guerra. I'm the Deputy Director of the Thematic Institute for Public Health in INSERM. So just I have a 2-part answer to that question, actually. Yes, the patient associations are very welcome to participate to this process, because as has been described, we want to get a complex project that would address maximum of information about this topic. So they are welcome. Just I want to maybe emphasize that the specific expression for interest is addressed to scientific teams. And so we will see in the text that the criteria for evaluation about participating to this call are mainly scientific, and so we candidate must be scientific teams, but their teams are asked for their relation with patient associations. So, and once the teams have been selected to co-construct the project, they will be welcome to invite association to participate to the process. I hope this is clear.
Thank you, Arnaud. More questions?
Waiting for the question, I can share one we received previously by email about the discipline eligible. So to say that both calls are open to any disciplines able to address the area of interest. And the scientific committee identified key disciplines such as epidemiology, pharmacoepidemiology, public health, neurobiology, sociology, and so on. The disciplines are written in the text, but it is not exclusive. So it's open to any discipline to address those topics.
So I see there is a question here, like, is the number of non-French teams limited? So no, I will say that we don't have limitations of the number of non-French teams. However, team one, the coordinator team, has to be a French team. And I wanted to attract your attention about the fact that if there is foreign teams who are interested to build a project, they have to found French teams who could be who can apply as a scientific coordinators. I think if here there is non-French teams who wanted to make links with other teams, please do not hesitate to send me an email, and I will do my maximum to put teams in contact if they are interested too.
And another question, it is possible to co-finance a project? Yes, it is possible. The co-funding must be indicated in the application form and in the budgetary annex.
It seems that the presentation has been very clear, as we don't have like so many questions. But please, if you have specific ones. Yeah, for example, 2 French teams and 2 non-French teams is possible, yeah. But you have to pay attention that foreign teams will receive at maximum 35% of the total amount of the budget requested in the full application. This is really an important thing to keep in mind. One French team is okay if there is no limitation on the minimum number of teams that can apply. So if you apply for a call for research project and you are a French team and don't need to add a partner team, obviously you can apply as only one team. We give the possibility to have 10 teams, but it will be really the maximum. And in the 10 teams, we count the coordinator team as team 1, and then 9 other teams. But yeah, one French team can apply for the research for the call for research project. Can a non-French team apply for animal and human studies? Of course. Non-French team can apply for animal and human studies, but keep in mind that the non-French team, the non-French team has to have a scientific coordinator team who is a French one. So I mean, like, yeah. You can also apply for a project covering more than one axis, more than one area. For example, you can apply for transgenerational effects on animals and pharmacology. I mean, like, you can apply for area 2 and 3. You can apply just for one area. Everything is possible. What is the added value for non-French teams? Arnaud? Do you want to take the lead on this question?
I can if you want. Thank you, Sandrine. Just the added value is that what it means is that the non-French team would bring some expertise that we don't have in scientific French team for this specific question. That's the added value. That's I would say that's the condition for funding. Maybe, as you know, it's very difficult to fund non-French teams through this kind of call for project based on public finance. And to this, maybe I can thank again the DGS because the Direction Générale de la Santé, because they have been quite flexible on that. And the condition is that the expertise must not be present in the scientific French team.
Arnaud, if I can add something, this is Rémi speaking. A typical example would be a register in a foreign country with data on anti-seizure medication or congenital malformation, or a cohort or any other data source that might be used for the topic of the call, and whose size or quality may not be available in France. It might also be some specific toxicological or statistic expertise, but clearly we have an issue regarding the sample size and the ability to recruit exposed women, pregnant women who have used anti-seizure medication. If we talk about the human studies in the call, and we know that particularly in other European countries, there might be excellent data sources that could be used for that topic.
Just maybe regarding the comment from Mrs. Weckmans, this is actually stringent, but you know, it's kind of that will be under the consideration of the scientific committee to see it for this complementarity, and as sound as it sounds scientifically adequate, I think that can be addressed. That's no problem. Maybe if I can, Sandrine, just add one thing regarding the initial report. You have mentioned that, I think, but maybe we can tell the candidate to address as well to the initial scientific report that has been commissioned by the DGS, just because for the molecules that can be considered in priority, it's been a little bit more specific than the call text. So you can have some details on that there. I mean, yeah. What would have to be addressed in priority would be the clinically most used molecule, of course, because
yeah. In addition to valproatacid, we have specific anti-seizure medication in mind. I will say, yes, topiramate, gabapentin, the most used actually. Carbamazepine. There is a big panel of anti-seizure medications. So I will say, yeah, those who have been mostly prescribed to women's. New generation.
In addition, Sandrine, just to add, of course, the frequency of prescription is relevant, but I think it's up to the applicant to justify why this or that drug would be relevant to test. So, of course, the frequency of use is a very relevant criterion. Any other relevant public health criterion is relevant. Any other toxicological criterion is relevant.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the drug is a candidate or is used or is a candidate as a future anti-epileptic drug, for example, would be also relevant, even if the drug is not used currently, or of course there might be a need for positive or negative controls. So clearly it's up to the candidate to convince the scientific committee that their set of molecules or mixtures, why not, is relevant for a public health, toxicological, mechanistic perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Remy. New generation of anti-seizure medications, why not? Yeah. Other questions? Okay.
You've been very clear, Sandrine.
Thank you.
Yeah, if there is no more question, we may conclude by first thanking everyone for their participation and thanking Sandrine for the organization of this meeting and the IReSP team in support with Julien, Caroline. And I extend also my warmest thanks to Chantal and the DGS team supporting this program. And if you have more questions later, you can write to Sandrine. And we are waiting for your beautiful proposal to cope with these scientific and social challenges around anti-seizure medication. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you very much to all of you. And please do not hesitate to send me emails. I will be your contact here as the mission coordinator of the Antiepileptic Seizure Program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.